we will immediately call Jean-Marc Germain, National Secretary for International Affairs, to address us about a resolution that will lead to a vote on the Socialist International. Over to you, Jean-Marc.
Thank you, fellow comrades. You all likely want to start the debates, but I'll ask for a few moments of your attention in this crucial time prepared by the teams elected at the Aubervilliers Congress to vote on a very important decision, our return as an active member in the Socialist International, which will hold its 26th Congress in Madrid from November 25th to the 27th. A brief historical reminder for the younger ones among us, and I believe for many, the Socialist International is the global organization of socialists, but also social democrats and labor parties. It was born from the split of the Workers' International triggered by the creation of the Communist International by Lenin and the Bolsheviks in March 1919. It takes shape, and that might be more surprising for some of you who know that in its current form it was born in 1951 from an international socialist worker between 1923 and 1940 before going into exile in London, and then announcing its dissolution. It's an important organization as it holds Category 1 consultative status with the United Nations, bringing together the most frequently consulted organizations. It experienced prosperous years, notably between 1976 and 2005, under the successive presidencies of Willy Brandt, then Pierre Mauroy, for whom a square was inaugurated in Paris earlier today, and Antonio Guterres, the current Secretary General of the UN. On an ideological level, since this is about rejoining a political movement, we need to consider what we are committing to defend. The Socialist International established its principles at the Frankfurt Congress in 1951, after 5 years of conferences to define 4 key tenets. We're in a context where fundamentally political life is organized around 3 main blocks: the capitalists and a second block that divides itself into 2, the anti-capitalists, who identify as Democrats, like the socialists, or those who align with more authoritarian forms of governance, like the communists. The 4 main principles that define the Socialist International and are more relevant than ever are political democracy, economic democracy, social democracy, and international democracy. At a time when we are all reflecting on our future, on our own foundation, it's worthwhile to take a moment to revisit, in a few words, this cornerstone document. Economic democracy first. Back then, sentences were straightforward, subject, verb, object, and the words were just as powerful, if not more so, than they are today. The socialists seek, I quote, to replace capitalism with a system in which the public welfare takes precedence over the benefit of the private gain. A whole explanation follows on what this means. It can take various forms. This does not imply public ownership of the means of production, but it is a goal that is clearly established. Social democracy stands in contrast to capitalism, where the primary principle is private gain, whereas socialism prioritizes the fulfillment of human needs. International democracy, democratic socialism is international, I'm still quoting here, because it seeks to free people from all forms of economic, spiritual, or political servitude. Democratic socialism is international because it recognizes that no nation can solve all its economic and social problems alone. Democratic socialism is international because maintaining world peace is the supreme task of our time. We are emerging from World War II. Everything is said, dear comrades. That is why we are internationalists, and that is why we need an international political institution that brings together organizations that identify themselves with these principles. and this is the reason I have dedicated many years to working with the international sector. I want to thank Sébastien Gricourt and Pierre Canuti, who maintained our networks and attended international meetings year after year. They may not be with us anymore, but they still help us in other ways. Thanks to them, and thanks to all those who worked before me to make our return to the Socialist International possible. Because in 2011, dear comrades, the party decided to suspend its participation in the Socialist International, given the refusal to exclude several parties whose values and actions were clearly no longer aligned with those of socialism, notably Ben Ali's PSD, this was after the Arab Spring and his fall, or Hosni Mubarak's NDP. The numerous defections that occurred at that time led to a split in the international socialist movement. The Progressive Alliance, a second organization, was founded in 2013, running parallel to cooperation forums like the Arab Social Democratic Forum and the Global Progressive Forum. Although we have never fully severed ties, dear comrades, with the Socialist International attending the IS Council as an observer without a delegation, we have joined the Progressive Alliance and are actively involved in its activities. The dysfunctions within the Socialist International stem from failures in internal democracy and a lack of transparency in finances and procedures to which the personality of the current Secretary General, in office since 1989, is intricately tied. Every request for the renewal of governing entities, especially since the Cape Congress in 2002, have gone unanswered. Things changed on September 25th. I was talking about our internal dialogues with Pedro Sanchez, who has stepped up to put forward his candidacy to lead the Socialist International with a commitment to unify the organization and bring together the socialist family. This nomination of a top leader from our political family who advocates for socialism and is respected and listened to globally creates a new political scenario that we need to embrace. Regarding the Secretary General, he does not hinder his succession, even though, and this example illustrates the difficulties we have faced for the past 10 years, motions from regional committees have called for his candidacy, thereby maintaining ambiguity about its legitimacy. 2 candidacies have been formally submitted for the position of Secretary General, which in our organization is just as important as that of President and is modeled after the United Nations. The first is Benedict Alassi, a 35-year-old Ghanaian lawyer, former Vice President of the International Union of Socialist Youth, and a member of the governing bodies of Ghana's National Democratic Congress. The other was a member of the leadership of the People's Party of Mongolia, who has since withdrawn his candidacy in favor of Benedict Alassi. Very concretely, and I'll end here, I am proposing with this resolution that we first express our support and endorsement of Pedro Sanchez's candidacy for the presidency of the Socialist International and of Benedict Alassi's candidacy. This is a small amendment to the document you have before you for the position of Secretary General. Additionally, what I have shared with you about the maneuver, I'll put that in quotes at this stage, by Luis Ayala to try to hold on to his role, underscores the importance of the resolution we can adopt this evening. Finally, I propose Hella Ben Youssef, a Tunisian socialist we have worked with for a long time, for the vice presidency of the Socialist International. Secondly, we are formally deciding to rejoin the Socialist International and send a delegation to Madrid for the 26th Congress. You will see we will be busy trying to implement the roadmap I am outlining here. We fully approve this resolution, which I propose to you, endorsing the candidacy of our first secretary for a position as Vice President of the Socialist International. The number of such positions will be determined on the eve of the Congress and must respect territorial balances and gender parity. This resolution also mandates the leadership to negotiate on normalizing our membership dues. It's out of the question to pay for the periods when we withdrew for political reasons. On the other hand, we can discuss our membership dues for the current year, which are tied to our voting rights, and then support fostering closer relations between the Socialist International and the Progressive Alliance, which is progressing well. This will likely require maintaining a forum for those who do not wish to join the Socialist International, as they do not identify as Labour, Socialist, or Social Democratic, but as part of the left. It happens, for example, with the Workers' Party of Lula in Brazil. There you have it, comrades. Unite the socialists. The renewals of the left always begin this way. Such is the challenge of the Madrid Congress and the resolution before you, which I propose we adopt with as much support as possible to strengthen our position when we attend the Socialist International Congress. Thank you all.
Thank you, Jean-Marc. We will now move on voting explanations of the minority opinion with Maurice Bro, 3 minutes.
Thank you, Marie. Thank you, Luc. Good evening, dear comrades. I am very happy about this opportunity we have to approve the resolution proposed to us this evening, and through this to address some of the international and European issues that are dear to us. We are a pro-European party, we are an internationalist party, and we must have regular debates on European and international issues in all our assemblies, including the National Council. I regret that we could not have a report this evening on the participation of our delegation in the European Socialist Party Congress. This will need to be done, just as, more generally, we must address the issues we are facing here in France, elsewhere in Europe, and around the world, most of which are, of course, global, energy, inflation, and the fight against climate change. Therefore, in addition to our parliamentary groups, which must regularly report to the National Council, we should also take the opportunity to discuss European and international issues here. So I am glad to be able to do so this evening. Second point, the resolution presented to us this evening. For my part, I am pleased to see that we are thus returning to the fold. In a way, the old house, even if, as everyone knows, it is indeed tumultuous, it is complex, and there have been, it is true, a certain number of regular breaches in its functioning. So indeed, at the beginning of the 2010s, another organization was established, the Progressive Alliance, as Jean-Marc recalled. The reasons for which all this was created, you know as well as I do, Jean-Marc, are not as virtuous as they seem. Those who brought the Tunisian RCD of Ben Ali or the PND of Hosni Mubarak are the very ones who ultimately left first, and you know it just as well as I do. As far as we are concerned, within this Socialist International Forum, we have supported and always will support other forces, one of whose representatives, in fact, we propose in the resolution submitted this evening, to also serve as a vice president. I am referring to Ella Ben Youssef, representing the Tunisian Ekatol political party. So, all this to say that things are still a bit more complex, and behind this lies a challenge, not for today, but for tomorrow, beyond the resolution we will vote on this evening. Of course, the question is what we will do within this organization, some elements of which we have already outlined, and that is a positive step. It requires commitment, which implies resources, financial resources, as you briefly mentioned, but also human investment from the party as a whole, from the first secretary aspiring to become one of the vice presidents, and beyond that, from the entire party. Once again, this brings us back to the need for a discussion right here. This indeed requires bringing the broader family together beyond the familiar party system we know in our European countries. It also requires that the main European parties, particularly those that left a few years ago, accept that other parties in different regions of the world can take on responsibilities and may have visions that sometimes differ from ours. In this sense, the internal decolonization of the International must continue. From this perspective, the proposal to ensure that a representative from our sister party in Ghana, which serves as a model party in this regard, with regular political alternation starting in the early 1990s with Rawlings, is an important step. The nomination of a young female African Secretary General is a significant element in this respect, and I hope it will enable our collective institution, the Socialist International, to finally move forward again. Thanks.
Thank you, Maurice.
Let's do this. Who isn't voting? I opened the online vote. Sorry. So, who isn't voting? Who's opposed? Who is in favor? The results are 174 expressed, 173 for, and 1 against.
My fellow comrades, I must say that this evening is truly wonderful, and I want to start by paying a heartfelt tribute to Jean-Marc Germain, who made it possible for us to pass a resolution with near unanimity, proving that even in socialist parties it can be done. And I say this with no hint of teasing. I say it because it was essential. Rejoining the Socialist International, to which we have always belonged, despite the brief hiatus Jean-Marc mentioned, also affirms our membership in a movement that is greater than ourselves, one that transcends us both in space and in time. And that is precisely what tonight is about, reconnecting with the space and time that link us to those who have built this great movement over several generations. I want to thank you all.